Coming up on episode 121 of Creative Writing, I'm answering community member questions.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hey there, creatives, and welcome to Create If Writing. This is the podcast for writers, bloggers, and creatives who want to build an online platform without being smarmy. And I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant. I am so glad that you are here for this episode where I am going to be answering community member questions. And this was actually supposed to be several months ago, and one thing led to another, and here we are in almost December. But these questions are from my paid community members, and one of the perks is that I will do a podcast episode every so often with their questions and giving them shout outs on the show. If you're interested in becoming part of the paid community, this is a great month to do it, because here's how it works. You can sign up to support the show through Patreon, and you can find me at creativewriting.com/Patreon to see the different levels. But at the $4 per episode level and above, you get access to a private Facebook community. And this is where the fun stuff happens. Now, the month of December, I am likely not doing any podcast episodes. I do have one interview I want to share with you guys, but I have a lot of kind of back seat projects that I want to bring to the front seat. And so I'm going to be taking a break from the podcast, which is by far the most time-consuming thing that I do each week, between the show notes and the recording, and especially the interview episodes, just getting the sound correct and getting all of the points down for the show notes. I really like to do show notes that are like meaty blog posts, so they're very rich. But in any case, I will not be charging anybody for anything in the month of December. So if you want to join and see what it's all about, it basically means you get a free month. So you can join December 1st. And basically how Patreon works is every time I do an episode, I upload to Patreon and say, yes, this is a paid episode. And then at the end of the month, or I guess probably the beginning of the next month, Patreon handles all the payments. You can cancel anytime. You don't have to go through me and get all awkward that you don't want to do it anymore. So I would highly recommend trying that this month. That's creativewriting.com/Patreon. And I'm sharing some of the secret projects that I'm working on in that paid community. So today I want to get to some of these questions, and I felt a little bad when I went back to them because the very first one from Roland Denzel of EatMoveLive52.com was about his launch, which already happened or already started for his Chill Holidays program that he and his wife Galina do. And I'm actually in the program, and it's been fantastic. So if you want to check that out, I think the doors are still open, although the content has started going out. If the doors are still open, you can go to creativewriting.com/chill and check that out. So he asked, time-sensitive launch. He has a time-sensitive launch. The whole course is about getting through the period from Thanksgiving until Christmas without going crazy with your eating and your living and just your well-being overall. It's a super stressful time. We just got through Thanksgiving. I'm sure you guys, maybe as I am, feeling it with just all the gross eating. We also got the stomach flu, which his course would not help with that, but it is all about mindfulness and relaxation. It's been very helpful for me. So he asked, if you have a time-sensitive launch, how in the world do you handle this? How do you promote it? What about a funnel? And this does look a little bit different. So let's talk first about kind of the difference between open, closed cart launches and evergreen launches. And I think I'd actually like to have an episode totally dedicated to this because it's kind of a big topic. But basically, an open closed cart is what he's talking about here with the Chill Holidays, where it may not be as particular, may not always be centered around a holiday, but you have a time where you open something and then it's not available again until you make it available. So like I said, if you go to creativewriting.com/chill, if it's not there, it's not there. That means that it's closed and you can enroll. It'll tell you when. And that's an open closed cart launch. And so often those are time sensitive and you have to promote kind of in a different way. Evergreen launches mean that they're open all the time so that people maybe find your blog post, or you could talk about it in a Facebook group or wherever you're promoting things in general. You could tweet about it. and people would go click over at any time and get to that course. So here's the thing. Funnels, I think, tend to work the very best for evergreen, because a funnel, and if you've heard this talked about a lot and you're not quite sure what that is, it's basically just how you get people started and move them through your content toward a sale. So it often, a very standard way is maybe somebody hits a free blog post of yours, right? Because blog posts are free. They read it and there's some kind of opt-in. Maybe it's a freebie, get my checklist. So they get the checklist, and in your email service provider, you have that attached to a sequence, and maybe you follow up with them, talk with them about the checklist. And then after a couple of emails, maybe you offer another product. Maybe it's a lower price product, or maybe you even offer the lower price product right away. And then later in the email sequence, you offer something that's a little bit pricier with a coupon code or something. That's a kind of typical standard funnel that a lot of people use. Those don't work as well if they're time sensitive, because those emails are set up like an autoresponder. People could find the blog post at any time. So if it's an open close cart, that makes it a little bit more difficult. So when you're dealing with a time sensitive thing where it's not going to be available all the time, for me, what it looks like is, way ahead of time. And again, sorry, Roland, this is like way too late for this launch. You will kind of calendar out what this is going to look like. I just did the book launch for Creative Collaborations, and there were a lot of things I just didn't get to because of the time crunch. So in hindsight, I would have planned interviews on other people's podcasts and maybe some guest posts, and everything that you're doing, you're peppering in information about your launch. Maybe you're not sending them to a sales page, because you can do a little bit of funneling. Maybe you're sending them to a blog post. So, like a podcast episode, sometimes people find a podcast and they go binge everything, right? I know some of you guys have mentioned this in the Facebook group. You just discovered this podcast and you went and binged everything. So there are maybe time sensitive offers here. So maybe you get sent to a blog post and things are closed, or there's a different offer. But when you are promoting, you want to try to get all of the things done in a specific time. So maybe you would have 1 week where you're doing a few different podcast episodes, and you can actually request or often try to book those when you're doing interviews with people for the weeks that you want. It doesn't always work that way. I know some of the podcasts I'm interested in, it's like 4 months away, their next open date, So you can always ask, you can try to schedule. You can try to schedule guest posts. You can set up different, schedule posts on Facebook and Twitter and all those things. I feel like it really looks similar to promotion otherwise, but you're just doing a whole lot more of it. And I think it's more concentrated because, again, it's going to end. So the benefit of having this sort of open close cart is that there's an urgency that allows you to go a little bit overboard. So this past week for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I was doing a push for the Profitable Blogging Framework, which is a course. It's really a framework, but it's hard to say. It's a framework because it's like defining a word with the word you're using in the definition. But it's a course-like thing that I created with Paula Rollo, who was my co-founder for the Profitable Blogging Summit. And it's got the videos from both years of the Profitable Blogging Summit, which is like over 60 videos from 50 different amazing experts. And so we sent out a ton more emails than we normally do. We were pushing it really hard because, again, it was like a 4-day thing. So you're kind of allowed a little bit of leeway. People understand. There were not super high unsubscribes because, again, people understand this is like a time sensitive thing. I'm not going to bombard you all the time. Sometimes I offer opt-outs for those sales emails. This time I didn't on purpose. It was not an accident that I didn't do that. It's because this is the offer that's the most targeted to that specific group. We don't offer anything else. There's no other products that we have for segmented parts of the Profitable Blogging Summit community. This was it. So we were pushing it hard, pushing it for a few days, and that's it. Now we're kind of backing off and being more normal. You can do that. It does look a little bit more concentrated. I think I learned this from Beth Ann Schwamberger of Brilliant Business Moms, but she talks a lot about teasing the information ahead of time, getting people to be as excited as you are in your community, sharing little things like sharing a book cover or sharing some of the graphics ahead of time, like, guys, look what's coming up. I can't wait. Or letting people pick. I let my community, you guys who are in the Facebook community, which is the free community, you can go to creativewriting.com/community and get in there. You guys helped me pick the book cover for Creative Collaborations. I gave you 2 or 3 choices and you guys chose, and I used the one you chose. So anything you can do to kind of get the word out, get it in the back of people's brains, get people excited, and have, if you can have launch. I had a launch party for my book. You could have live videos. You could just make it a celebration, make it, try to feel like people are invited to be a part of something exciting with you rather than, just pushing something at them, if that makes sense. And I think sometimes it's a very subtle difference, but those subtle differences really translate, I think, to your audience. I also think for your particular course, the Chill Holidays, someone mentioned this, maybe it was Stephanie in the group, that visually this is really good. This might be a really good kind of thing to, show pictures of foods that people overate at Thanksgiving, or get people already thinking about like what it looks like to eat well, some pictures maybe of people feeling healthy, because again, this is really not a super healthy time for a lot of people mentally, emotionally, physically. And I think that's a great idea too. The more that you can do to kind of touch on those pain points and the struggles and show the benefits of what you're doing. And that's kind of general for all time. But I think in terms of time sensitivity, you look at the dates, you schedule it out, you try to make it a celebration, and really use that urgency to get people to know, here's when it ends. And I know sometimes like we get these sales emails and it feels like a lot, but I know I recently bought a course on using Asana because I'm trying to be more organized with my life. And I bought it on like the 7th email. Every email, I thought about it, but it was the 7th email that made me buy. And so there is something to, or maybe it was the 5th. There is something to this whole idea that you need to see something again and again. And I know it really annoys some people, but for other people, they really need to hear these different reasons why this is something that benefits them. So it is hard for people. We talk about not being smarmy on this podcast. And so it is hard for us. I know, to email a bunch of times and keep posting on Facebook, but you're always going to find people who miss it also. So there are going to be people who get annoyed, and there are going to be people who miss it every single time. So I hope that helps maybe in retrospect. And if the gate is still open or the card is still open for you guys, Roland, then maybe that will help. And anyone listening, I would love for you guys to check it out. You can go to creativewriting.com/chill to find out about the program. So thank you, Roland, for that question. And now our second question is from Katie Androsky from katieandrosky.com. And Katie, please let me know if I'm ever not saying your name right, because it could be Androsky. I think it's Androsky. So let me know. You can tell me in the group. So your question was, is it worth it to relaunch a book? So you just got your rights back to a book and are thinking about relaunching it now that you control it. So congrats on getting your rights back. That can really be a huge battle for people, and for even having your book published. That's amazing. So for relaunching books, there's kind of two options. First, let me just say a resounding yes, most of the time it is worth it. So that's a short answer, but there's two ways you can relaunch a book. Now, your case, you might not have a choice depending on how it was uploaded because a publisher had the rights, but I'm going to talk as though you had the rights, and I'm going to use a couple examples. So two ways you could relaunch. You can actually keep everything the same in Amazon. So like if you self-published a book a couple of years ago, and I've done this with my Advent book, and I'm actually going to be doing that again this year, where I do updates to it. Maybe you update the cover and keep everything the same. There's an ASIN number in Amazon. All that's the same. You keep your reviews, but maybe you change the cover, change the description, change the categories. Maybe you change the price and do another big push. Maybe you do some paid promotions on Facebook or through some giveaway sites. Maybe you reach out to bloggers, maybe you reach out to your list, tell them what's different. So it's a relaunch, but it's kind of like a soft relaunch. Now, the other option is to completely unpublish it and publish it again with a different ASIN number. It's basically taking it down and then creating a whole new book in Amazon. That takes away your reviews, but it has the ability to do some kind of awesome things. And so an example of this would be Brian Cohen of the Sell More Books Show. And he's talked about that on the show. So if you head over to the sellmorebookshow.com, you can find kind of some of the past episodes where he talks about rebranding his superhero series. He tightened up the writing in the books. He got new covers and really rebranded them because he felt like they were not quite being positioned for the category to do as well as they could be. And he put some money behind this, and he found that he made his money back. So he had a whole series, and they were, before, I think they were called like the Ted Saves the World series, and just a little bit more lighthearted. And when they came back with the rebranding, from kind of what I noticed, this was just my observation, they seemed a little bit more serious, like the stakes seemed a little bit higher, and they were called the Viral Superhero series. And so it seemed a little bit more intense, whereas like Ted Saves the World, it just sounds like friendly. I don't know, Ted's kind of one of those friendly names. Like it sounds a little bit more, I don't know, light, I guess. And the Viral Superhero series and the covers, again, everything was a lot more intense. The stakes were upped. And for that genre, they sold better. And so for him, it was totally worth it to lose the reviews and to come back with something that seemed, and really in a lot of ways was, totally new, because there was a lot of rewriting. Now, you don't want people to be tricked into buying something that's the same. And so you do want to be careful, if you're going to go that route, that either the book hasn't been really circulated a lot, or you change enough. Because if somebody buys it again and they already bought the first one and then it's gone, they don't recognize it because you rebranded so much, but inside it's the same book, you might get some angry reviews or people frustrated or returning the book. So that's something to consider. But if you got the rights back for your book and it hasn't been, published for a while, or it hasn't been promoted for a while, then taking it and, seeing what you need to tighten up and change, how you can make it better, what you can do with the covers, the keywords, the categories, the descriptions, and go to creativewriting.com/119, because in episode 119, I had Kevin Tomlinson from Draft to Digital, and we talked about how to optimize your Amazon listing. So if you are relaunching either way, you may want to look into that and see some of the things that are important as far as covers and descriptions go, so that you can do the best job. So I do absolutely think it's worth it to relaunch books, but you kind of have to think about which way is the best. And again, Katie, you may not have that option because it may be, Amazon published it and now you're having to publish it for the first time again. So it may not be a choice for you, but for anybody else who's had their own book and had the rights and published it and wants to do it again, consider which way is the best way for you. But you can always do that soft relaunch where you give it a huge big push, like it's a new thing, talk about the updates, even though it's the same book. You're not tricking anybody. You're just doing a really big promotion and kind of relaunch versus the whole rebranding and then launching it again as though it's a new book. So those are two ways you can do it, but I think it's valuable to do it. I mean, I think we should always be repurposing content. Don't let things die. If you have a book that's already written, do what you need to make it relevant again, to make it work again. Get a new cover. I really like goonwrite.com. I've worked a lot with him. There's some great pre-made covers. You can do custom covers. And, just do what you can to freshen it up, tidy it up, tighten it up, and go for it again fully. So great question, Katie, and I'm excited for your book. The last question is from Stephanie Nickel, and you can find her if you go to hopestreamradio.com and search for, I was trying to think, there's a hard way to do the link for this, but if you go to hopestreamradio.com, I think you can find her if you're looking for Steph Nickel. So Stephanie asked, what are the steps? I love this question, by the way. What are the steps for not getting into FOMO, the fear of missing out, when it comes to taking all the courses and buying all the things? Great question. And I think I've actually forbidden you in several groups of mine from buying more things, Stephanie, because as somebody else too, there's a few of you guys, I'm like, stop buying the courses. And I feel that because I buy all the courses, right? So I can say that to you because I say it to myself. So how do you not do it? Well, the first thing is I think you need to make a contract with yourself. So I made a contract with myself, which I broke, but I made it in like March. And I said, I have already spent all my money for the year. I invested in something huge, which is Buy Our Future from Jason Zook and his wife, Caroline. And I hate to just call her his wife, Caroline, but her last name is escaping me right now, from madevibrant.com. Sorry, Caroline, for completely blanking right now on your last name, but I bought Buy Our Future, which is basically all the courses they've ever created, which is amazing because great content. She has some wonderful art courses. I don't talk about this much, but I used to be a painter. I wanted to go to art school for a long time. So that's something fun for me that I plan to go through just for fun sometimes. So I have those there, and his courses, and also some software, like where I have all my courses hosted. That was from there, but it was like $1,000 investment, and that's huge for me. So it's kind of, that was the thing where I was like, that's the end. Now I have bought a few more things, but part of it is price point. for me. And the other part is, could I learn it on my own or not? So I mentioned already when I was talking about launches that I bought Megan Min's Asana course, and that was really helpful. I tend to not organize my life in that way, but I think in the future, depending on how things go, I really do need to think about hiring a virtual assistant and having more of a team of people. And I need to be using something like Asana, or all the communications will just be lost. Because this week already, like, I am behind in email, I'm forgetting things. Paula and I, during the launch for the Profitable Blogging Framework, there were things that kept slipping through the cracks because we were just talking on Facebook Messenger, and we were both like, oh man, this is just not like the best way to communicate about really important things like the price of things. That's just not where it should happen. So anyway, it was something I really needed and was at a great price point. So, I think if you're worried about that, I think you need to make a list. First of all, make a spreadsheet of what you've bought. Okay. That will be convicting enough probably if you're like me and you have courses, because I actually found I have like 3 courses I've paid for that I did not take. And I'm not talking necessarily cheap courses. Okay. This is the last couple of years. I think I bought like I'm trying to think, a $50 course that I never took and forgot about, and they moved platforms and I had to email them and get back in. There's a $300 course. I only got through 2 modules. I still plan to. That's actually one of the things on my list in December. Several big things that I have not done. And I'm like, why? Where did the money go? What am I doing here? So make a list, make a spreadsheet, talk about when you finish them, check it off. Talk about put the prices in the spreadsheet so you can look at them and say, oh my goodness, look at how much money I'm investing in learning, because I do think it can be super valuable. I know people who don't ever invest, they learn it all themselves. Great. I learned a lot myself. But I am a nerd, you guys. I love to learn. And I just feel the value of investing in yourself. But if you buy an SEO course and a Facebook ads course and a course on Asana and a course on writing a book and a course on launching and all of these courses, you can't possibly do that all. Okay. So you need to look at what you've already got and what you finished. If you have things you haven't finished, don't buy anything else. If you are getting all these launch emails and you really want the thing, unsubscribe. You can always go subscribe to the person later. Okay. If you have to mute it. Or if you see that email in your inbox, don't open it. Okay. Click delete so you're not going to be tempted. Because I fall prey to those temptations because I want to learn all the things. I'm nerd. So that's one thing. Make the list. Tell yourself, make a contract. I will not buy any more courses until I've completed the ones I have. And if you're tempted, don't open the emails. Don't subscribe, scroll past things, and just tell yourself no. And maybe you could make yourself one caveat. Okay. So there was a caveat that I made that there was a particular course and I was like, okay, and actually this is Buy Our Future. When Buy Our Future first came around, I did not have the money, and I emailed Jason and I said, this is amazing. I don't have the money right now. I hope the next time you guys launch, I do. And they launched again, and it actually was better because the first time it was Buy My Future. It was just his stuff. And then he and Caroline got married and they made it Buy Our Future, and it was the same price. I happened to have the money. I had a great month. So the money was right there in the account, and they actually pre-launched it at the same price just to the people who had been interested before. And they were about to up the price. And so I went ahead and got it because I knew I wanted it. I had saved the money. I had the money, and it was something I had planned to get for a couple of months. And, in that couple of month time, I could say, this isn't about FOMO. This is about, for a couple of months, I've wanted this and I still want it now. And it was absolutely worth it, even if just for the software, because now I can get rid of the $600 a year software that I was using before to run my courses. So it is absolutely worth it. So that's another thing to think about, is maybe make a caveat okay, there's this one course I really want, or I need to learn about Facebook ads. If something comes up and it's at X price point, so maybe even be that specific. If it's $100 or less and it's on this topic and it's from someone I trust, that's the other thing. Ask around, because some of these courses are not worth it. I've taken courses that aren't. But do make that caveat, make a contract with yourself, and then make a schedule. Okay, this month, for me, this month in December, I'm going to finish the SEO course I was taking. Because I also got a private SEO thing from, thing is not the right word, but an audit essentially from Taylor Bradford of Boss Girl Creative. And I'm going to go through, she made a private video. She went through all my console and analytics and all that jazz, which is amazing. And I am ready to get my SEO for my site going in December so that, that's actually working for me on autopilot when I'm not, promoting my content all the time. So I hope that helps, Stephanie, but I think I have to tell you, stop buying courses, because I think you're one who buys tons of them like me. And if you have tons of money laying around, that's great. You could just do that, but still there's something about these things that hang over your head where I think it inhibits us creatively. So if you're like me and like Stephanie and you keep buying these courses and you see them, turn it off, list the things you already have, make a contract with yourself and schedule out when you're going to complete them, and tell yourself not to do anything else until you've completed them, and maybe not even just completed them. Sometimes you don't need to complete them. Complete them to the point that you are implementing what you learn, so that it's not just nerdy knowledge going on up in that brain of yours. You need to be implementing it, okay? So don't just take the course and do it. So maybe you only need to take half of it. I bought courses specifically just for like the tech training, because often I get the ideas and the whys and all that. I need like tech training. Like when I first started doing webinars, I bought a course on webinars just for the tech training. And that's what I did. I didn't need a lot of parts of it. I just needed the tech training. And so that's what I took. So I hope that helps. And I hope that these questions are helpful for all of you guys if you're thinking about launching something evergreen or open close cart, if you're thinking about relaunching a book, or if you're struggling with FOMO and wanting to buy all the courses like me. So Stephanie, I feel you on that. Again, if you are interested in being a part of the Creative Writing paid community, you can go to creativewriting.com/Patreon. There's actually a couple different levels. You can support the show for as little as $4 a month. I'm never going to go over 4 paid shows per month, even if I have extra shows. And some months like December, it's going to be free because I'm not going to charge you guys, even if I have a podcast episode out. So you can sign up for the $1 level, $2 level, and I think it jumps up to the 4. I don't have it in front of me, but there's perks for every level, different things that you get for the levels. And I would love for you guys to check that out. It's a great way to support the show and to support me. And I appreciate you guys helping keep, I was going to say the lights on, and I'm in a dark room as I'm recording this, but keeping the podcast mic on by your support. And I also just love the energy of the community that we have. The big free community is amazing. The small paid community is just a little bit more intimate and a nice way to kind of ask questions and be a little bit more vulnerable and transparent and ask the questions you might not want to in the big group. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to get weekly resources delivered straight to your inbox, you can go to creativewriting.com/quick fix. And I've got a great article this week that I wrote. I'm going to be sharing from Medium, which is where I've started to write about social media and things that are less evergreen, all about Facebook bots and how they might ruin Facebook. So definitely check that out by going to creativewriting.com/quick fix. Thank you to Jasmine Commerce of JasmineCommerceMusic.com for the music for this show. And thank you, my listeners and supporters. I hope that you guys know that I love hearing from you. If you ever want to email me, tweet me at Kiki Mojo. KirstenOliphant@gmail is my email. Or you can reach out in the free community and talk to me, ask questions about the show, or anything else you want to. I love to chat. Thank you guys for listening and bringing your questions. And I hope you have an inspired week.